Well, ladies and gentlemen, a lot of you have been wondering for a while. Dwibs, what is your favourite movie exactly? You keep saying you don't necessarily have a set favourite of things, but surely there has to be an exception to that, right? Well, we found it. It's movies, and in this case, it's the 2004 film Downfall, a German language film about the fall of Adolf Hitler in his last days of power.
Original title being Der
Der
Untergang.
Untergang.
So
Yeah.
what makes this one your favorite, Dwibs?
Well, you see, the typical problem with a lot of films based on this subject is that, is that people take the idea of, yes, Hitler was an evil psychopath who cared nothing but himself and his evil ideals, and take that into being, I want Hitler to be portrayed as a Saturday morning cartoon villain with his performances. This film recognized, no, that's not the way to do that if you want people to take your film and the subject matter seriously. So this film has Bruno Ganz as Hitler, playing a guy who doesn't yell at everybody 24/7, but is instead a soft-spoken yet, obviously evil man who cares about no one but himself, and who rants. He still rants, but not like every 5 seconds as most films portray it as.
I'm mostly curious because this was still in the time where Germany was essentially banning all Nazi iconography, even in media, to the point where movies, comics, and video games had to be censored for it. So a movie done in-house about this subject matter is, I guess, bold and brash.
Yeah, this movie feels a lot like what Kubrick would have, something I can talk about what Kubrick would have made if he had finished his original Napoleon Passion Project back in the day. An objective, non-judgmental demonstration of what Hitler's life was like, what the overall story was like, without tipping the scales into judgment.
Yeah. It was directed by Oliver Hirschspiegel in what I think was his second film, and written by the film's producer, Bernd Eichinger. And in case that name sounds familiar to you, he was a guy who produced the first 3 Fantastic Four movies. One which didn't come out, and the 2 Tim Story films that unfortunately did come out.
So what you're saying, Dwibs, is that he had his own downfall later down the line.
Hey!
Yeah, and that's the... Yeah, so which leads me to the conclusion, maybe he should have just written those films.
Well, you also might be excused to know at least a part of this movie by one of the more infamous parts that the internet found and, decided that it was a good, thing to exploit. But that's way later down the line. I guess we can just start. For reference audience, we're watching, particularly to refer to the German audience, we're watching the based theatrical cut. That's because there is an extended cut, but as far as I know, official releases tends to be just with the German subs and not with the English one. I'm pretty sure, confident that a fan kind of sub exists on the internet, but for the sake of, authenticity and everything, we're just sticking to the base cut. Maybe we will take a look at an existing version of the extended cut another time. Where should we need to start, Wibs?
Yeah, just before the Constantine film logo starts.
Let's do this.
Go ahead, then.
Alright, 3, 2, 1, go.
I actually did watch this movie once in 2010, but God, I remember enjoying it, but I forgot most of it. Just, the meme part that everybody loves.
I actually saw this movie recently for the first time with Dwibs, actually. It's fantastic, actually. It's pretty great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, basically, this film is, to me, what Grave of the Fireflies is to Pedro.
I wonder why would you mention that?
Dwibs, I can assure you they're very different films. I don't think you know what you're talking about, to be honest with you.
Both war movies.
I guess we start with actual people's footage instead of actual actors.
Yeah, this is the woman who wrote the one of the books that this film was inspired from. Charles Younger, in the case.
Mm-hmm. Connected to what Dwibs was saying before, one of the reasons why Hitler was portrayed that way was mostly because of propaganda. They needed to mention to people who knew nothing about Germany what kind of deal they had to go through. Everybody remembers stuff like their Furious Space, but there's also the other propaganda cartoon that Disney made that is almost narrated like a fairy tale.
If you want to pick a Kubrick movie, pick either Full Metal Jacket or Paths of Glory. That would be a much better comparison. Go on, Joe.
Make no mistake, Hitler was incredibly evil and was the de facto bad guy of World War II. But yeah, propaganda do be propaganda, and how they really went over the top with things here and there.
Yeah, it'd be like if movies portrayed I don't know, Napoleon as like a mouse. And we were supposed to take it seriously.
I still have to find that fabled Titanic adaptation where Napoleon is guiding the iceberg. I know it exists somewhere, but I just have my luck not working.
It says something that not even Saberspark has found something that
November
obscure.
1942. Führer's headquarters, Wolfschanze, Rattenberg in East Prussia.
Mm-hmm.
So this was the film. The film actually starts with Hitler hiring his new secretary, and also I think this is our first non-English language film that we've done.
With Dweebs, one of our very oldest. Well, okay, you're talking live action, right?
Yeah, live
Strictly?
action.
Okay,
Mhm.
fair enough. Well,
Didn't
me
we
and the others
commentate
did Battle Royale actually without you.
Yeah, there was that.
Remember, this is the 1940s.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, quite a few people were spellbound by this guy. Yeah, because one thing Hitler had with him was his immense charisma in speaking.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that doubled also as intimidation to the point where you really didn't know, I guess, how to act in front of him,
Mm-hmm.
like any good dictator.
So, basically, it's basically an audition. Just type a letter that Hitler dictates.
The agile red fox jumped on the lazy brown dog. No? Okay.
22.
You can also tell that they want to emphasize on a bit of tension, even when it might not be there, because they deliberately choose, moments to not even have a score in the background. While there is actually one, if I recall correctly.
Alright, so she's getting another chance. Oh,
The wonders of typewriters back then. One letter out of place, and you gotta do the whole thing over again. Oh!
Yeah.
yeah, she got it. They seem really happy for not having been auditioned at all, and they're like, really, I made that wasted journey for nothing. So now we skip a few years, and the tide's definitely turned in the war.
Yeah.
2.5 years later, Berlin, April 1945, Adolf Hitler's 56th birthday.
Yes, it is around this time that Berlin is getting stormed, I do believe.
And bombed.
Yeah, by the Allies.
Mm-hmm.
Although, if I recall correctly, the Russians arrived first.
I mean, the Russians are basically part of the Allies at this point.
Yeah. That's what I mean. The other allies were not busy, but but were mostly concentrated on having from the south from my country instead.
Yeah, if I remember, this was before we joined the war. So the current time we're in right now. I mean,
I mean 1945. That's like around near the end
I
of the war.
I guess, Peter, your country arrived at the last minute or something?
No, but throughout most of World War II, Joe, my country remained neutral on the whole thing, and we
Kind of like Spain.
We basically just tried not to get involved at all. Basically, eventually we had to at some point, but fortunately, I was toward the end part of the war, so fortunately.
I think this scene is the second most used
notorious
parodies.
Oh, yes.
It's actually interesting. The movie came out a couple of years before the internet became more notorious. So I actually would have to do a bit more research just to see how exactly it came to circulation.
So yeah, basically the part of the reason they fell was because the people in charge were incompetent. This scene, basically, no one told Hitler how close the Russians really were to the city center.
Yeah. Let's see. In case you're wondering, Teo, the first ever Hitler parody was in 2005, a year after the film released.
Okay. Well, yeah, it makes sense.
I definitely can remember Hitler parodies as old as the dawn of time.
So we've got now Martin Bormann and Wilhelm Burgdorf. and now we've got Hermann Fegelein on the right.
Yes, arguably the real star of the show.
And Heinrich Himmler on the left. Fegelein is, of course, played by Thomas Kreitzman, a.k.a. probably the most famous actor out of all these people, because Kreitzman has been in quite a few Hollywood movies.
Yeah.
Including such classics as Cars 3 and Hitman Agent 47.
And Resident Evil Apocalypse.
Cars 2, sorry.
And Avengers Age of Ultron.
Like 5 minutes. Alright, so Berlin's pretty much dead at this point, so basically they tried to convince Hitler to leave, but Hitler, being the stubborn prick chose not to.
And there's also a bit of seed of potential defection.
I mean, there was already a bit earlier, a bit before this. Remember, there was the Stauffenberg plot to blow him up. And now Operation Clausewitz is in effect, which basically means burn everything and get the hell out of there.
Yeet. Mm-hmm. Yeah, about that.
Don't ask questions you aren't ready to get the answers to, Doctor.
Yeah, that's the thing, though. The wonder the Nazis fell, the top brass didn't even talk to each other about anything.
It was a combination of them wanting to try and get the favor here and there, and then being too afraid to tell the boss what was going on.
It's also weird. Over the course of centuries, usually what the nation of Prussia, which eventually will become Germany, or even before it became that, was mostly notorious actually for its militarization. So this was kind of unprecedented in terms of incompetence.
Here's the problem with fascism. Everyone's trying to get on top no matter which way they can. And that would mean sabotaging your fellow officer, even if it pretty much doomed the army as a whole.
Mm-hmm. The doctor ain't leaving.
How kind.
Yeah, but think about it, Tio. Everyone, aside from him and his aide, all the medical people are leaving because of Clausewitz.
Mhm.
So basically, he's on his own.
And I'm sure the Soviets will be so kind to him.
Behind their backs, they kiss my aunt.
Hey, if it's any consolation, there's one German officer from World War One who literally told Hitler to his face to go F himself, so brave guy.
What happened to him, I wonder?
He retired.
Mhm.
And that's
Of
not
course.
that's not a euphemism or anything. He was a decorated officer from World War One, who Hitler actually respected, so he didn't kill the guy or anything. It's just that when Hitler asked him if he would come back into service to serve as one of his leading generals, he told Hitler to go stick it where the sun don't shine.
So yeah, no diplomatic solutions here.
Unconditional.
Well, given who's in charge of Russia at the time, yeah, they're just out for blood.
Especially after what happened. No, it's more of a combination of everything. Because originally Stalin was actually allied with Germany, but because of a Russian invasion, he decided to eventually join the Allies. Though, as oversimplified put it, it felt more like of a moment where Stalin just realized that he could have done that from the very beginning.
So yeah, now Himmler is going to basically try to take matters into his own hands.
I'm sure Hitler's gonna love that. You know things are screwed when treason is the least of an officer's worries.
Now I got Albert Speer.
So,
Oh, that order.
Yeah, nope.
Scorched earth, pretty much.
mhm.
Burn everything to the ground.
There were actually multiple variations, like when the Allies actually were, tried to recapture, not tried, but eventually recaptured France. There was the infamous phone call that mentioned is Paris burning.
Mm. Delusional much?
Well, that's Hitler for you.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Put it one way.
I don't know. Walt Disney might beg to differ on that. Well, like, your own take on Washington, D.C.?
Sure.
It's even got a building that looks like the Capitol.
It does remind me of one parody that I saw where he put his hand on the dome. His hand got stuck on it. Just because of Fegelein super glue.
It's always
And it broke and he
Fegelein,
fell
isn't
backwards.
it?
Yeah. Although we should make it clear, in the Downfall parody universe, Fegelein is a prankster who constantly drives Hitler mad with his antics.
Of course.
Sometimes just for the losers, sometimes because he wants to take over.
Yeah. in real life, Fegelein was a careerist coward.
Yeah. Someone with ambition, but not really the capacity to walk the walk.
Yeah, and Kreisman plays him really well.
Well,
Well,
everyone does it for their
everyone plays the
respective
parts really well,
roles.
especially Bruno Ganz as Hitler. He dedicated a lot of research to the role, including listening to a lot of Hitler's speaking so he could get the accent down, because Bruno Ganz is Swiss and Hitler was Austrian.
Hmm.
And yes, the armies in Germany were so depleted, they resorted to using the Hitler Youth.
Yeah, they had to conscript literally the teens.
Damn, even the guy leading this little group
Damn.
isn't really that old.
But hey, at least they're letting girls fight there. Gender equality, ain't that great?
Hooray.
That's suicide.
This kickstarted another little thing with the movie. That character there, the kid, apparently he was an original creation for this movie.
Uh-huh.
Probably maybe to add like a little thing about how the war really affected the children who were conscripted.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So yeah, as part of Hitler's paranoia and what we said earlier, his delusions, he's basically moving around units that either aren't there or are there but are severely depleted. Okay, this is one scene that's a bit different in the extended version. After Hitler just finished saying, "I believe I made myself perfectly clear," in the original, Goebbels doesn't start talking until a bit later on. Also, yeah, deal with the Americans, yeah, again.
Battle of the
Likely.
Bulge and all that.
Yeah. But instead, what we got was a bit more of an scene of Hitler trying to convince his generals, and well, himself mostly, that his plan will work.
Instant promotion.
Hooray.
Yeah, battlefield promotions are a common thing as well, because Hitler kept getting rid of his staff.
Oh, like you weren't before?
I'm pretty sure Hitler never cared about the citizens in the first place, but here it's much more apparent.
What are you talking about, Dwibs? There are no civilians.
As much as there is no war in Basing Se.
Yeah.
So yeah, it has been tried before, but the people that tried that got kicked out of the bunker.
Although at this point, the soldiers are like, is getting kicked out really that bad a thing?
Well, they'll get blown up by the Russians or the Allies.
Yep.
And yet,
Well,
somehow it
West
seems
is-
like sticking with Hitler might lead to an even worse outcome for them.
Well, yeah, a lot of the higher-ranking generals ended up in the Nuremberg trials.
Mm-hmm.
There you go, I found it. The composer for this was Stefan Zacharias, but as you may notice, the score is actually very, very minimal, mostly done in order to, keep the serious tone.
I think this is one of the last times, or maybe the last time, Hitler actually went outside of the bunker.
Mm-hmm. And of course, it's for shooting a propaganda video.
Okay. Yeah, I know. Hitler doing something creepy. That's breaking news. I know, but even so, oof.
Nobody tell him about the Iron Curtain.
That's not there yet, Jova.
Exactly. Nobody with clairvoyance tell him about the Iron Curtain. That may just make things worse.
It's kind of like that one gag that tied to Jack the Ripper is like, Dear Diary, apparently the only thing we need to do in order to angry a bunch of time travelers, in this case, is actually, start a world war.
But yeah. At this point, Hitler really can't even keep up the big man bravado he normally exuded, when he's behind the scenes.
That's also a good point.
Yeah, even if you did get out, where are you gonna go?
Again, the best bet probably will be with the Allies, and even so, it's not a guarantee.
If you're going to try and get a deal with the Allies, you better hope it's the Americans or British you run into. The Russians, boy.
Yeah, no.
Well, I mean, the Nazis did butcher a load of their people, so I can imagine why the Russians wouldn't be too happy. Well, the Soviets, more accurately, at this point.
Yeah, and they were intent to make Germany pay tenfold.
Yep, Schenk is alone. Only his A to help him because, the whole stuff with Clausewitz. But hey, let's have a party!
Of course.
Celebrate!
Yeah, I get her intent, but as we're going to see a bit later on, that's going to cause a bit of a weird effect on one of the party goers.
I wonder.
Before that, let's have them discussing Hitler's scorched earth plan. But yeah, Hitler is one of those extreme Darwinists.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I'd rather we lose the war by having ourselves do it instead of the bad guys do it. Logical as usual, of course.
Brilliant.
I think that alone would have shaken your Darwinism or your extremist Darwinism, Hitler. In that you say your best generals are already, your best people are already dead, and your worst ones, at least according to you.
It says a lot to where Senator Armstrong's plan for Darwinism made more sense, and it was still, in the words of Raiden, batshit insane.
Yep.
So yeah, Fegelein, Eva's soon-to-be brother-in-law, because he's marrying her sister.
And the prom's tomorrow.
And of course, Eva was, well, Hitler's significant other, so. This could make things very awkward.
Yeah, she's not leaving.
Cowardly careerist as Fegelein may be, he sadly has a point.
Yeah.
But yeah, no matter how much you try and dance about, there is still a war going on outside.
After all, Dweebs, the real party is the communist one in this case. Eh?
But Younger is starting to feel a bit displaced. Well, yeah, because all the horrors of war going on outside, and meanwhile these guys are trying to have a freaking party.
Oh, don't worry, it's about to get much, much worse.
Ouch.
Yeah. There you go.
Okay, party's definitely over now.
Could you imagine if she still tried to have him dance after that?
Of how much in denial they are, I wouldn't be all too surprised.
Yep.
And to think, we're only about 30 minutes into this movie.
This scene actually reminds me of another parody that I saw. What happened was Steiner, that they referred to earlier in the movie, or they'll refer to later, doesn't have an actor in this film, and so
It was just mentioned.
and so they posed the question, "How come we never seen him?" And then Hitler was like, "But he doesn't actually exist in the Downfall universe." So then, but however, they used the generals revealed to Hitler that they used their time machine to bring the real Steiner to them. Of course, this causes a time paradox in which everyone gets split off into different universes.
Oh boy.
Brilliant.
So this is Weidling. Weidling, I don't know how you pronounce it in German. Basically, he's going to be the recipient of another battlefield promotion, but first he's under the impression that because he did something forbidden and moved, and well, at least they think that he moved his command post away from the front lines, he's going to be executed.
You know, deserting sounds like a much better idea now.
You know, that's the thing, though. That wasn't his plan. It was just confusion from the phone call.
Yeah, I know, but now, because they got the wrong idea, he might as well desert.
in war-torn Berlin.
Brilliant.
Good luck with that. And that's a bit of a scene transition. Go from that back to the wide-leg side of things. Yeah, that's their this isn't obviously because of stuff being downgraded. The best security Hitler could get for his bunker wasn't even all that great.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure if you guys mentioned this before,
Go ahead.
but when did you guys first hear of this movie?
Okay, here
I-
definitely about the memes, but I forgot exactly the year. Still early years of the internet, definitely. But
Same.
if I had to wager, maybe 2007, 2008. But like I said, I only saw it once in 2010.
The
First-
movie actually came out in theaters over here. However, I never got around to watching it
Yeah,
until
I
recently.
remember actually the marketing actually of the movie. That is true, actually. In my country, it's literally called. Well, it's a translation of this one, Downfall, but it also adds the minor subtitle, "The Last Days of Hitler."
I first
Mhm.
saw, of course, a parody. I forget what the parody was tied to, but definitely was mid to early. Sorry. Yeah, somewhere in the mid 2000s.
Pretty much the same for me. I think I first saw the film around the early 2010s. But he wasn't retreating.
Semantics.
Huh. Fun.
So yeah, he's getting an audience with Hitler. Not the way he expected it to go down.
What an honor.
That could go magnificently or terribly.
So yeah, the only hospital that he could try and find any kind of resources from is in the part that is controlled by the Russians.
Oof.
And yeah, I can imagine the Soviets
Not
would've
really
tried to
willing
get-
to cooperate, yeah.
Yeah, plus they probably would have taken the medicine and that for themselves.
Again, the Allies probably would have had give a better shot in terms of, actually helping the sick. But no, definitely not the Soviets.
Well, I mean, Monka asked him to do it, so yeah. But yeah, not a whole lot going about.
Something tells me being a medic won't exactly get you any favors.
But you will find something down here. Yeah. And also, yeah, they basically just stuffed all the elderly in here.
Ooh.
What a great military machine. They've got their commanders away from their regiments and everything.
And they're all drinking. Well, most of them are. So yeah, here's the results of his little meeting with Hitler.
Could have gone worse.
Damn.
Yeah, definitely could have gone worse.
But yeah, he'd rather have been shot.
Yep. So, another promotion. Wait, what happened to the last commander of Berlin's defense?
Promoted.
He went to a happy place to retire.
On a farm and everything.
Yes.
Yeah, basically this scene shows two things. How hopelessly outgunned the Germans are, and how it affects the civilians. Too far away to do anything. Yeah.
You were saying...
Yeah, you're gone for like 6 seconds and the guy who was right next to you dies. And now even the tag fight, the attacks are even starting to reach the outside of the bunker. Oh yeah, the scene is coming up now after this a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, Steiner's attack that Hitler ordered was supposed to have started by now, but well, Steiner's barely got a unit.
Everything?
Oh, and here's
There we
the
go.
icon, and here's the famous scene.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, this scene is actually way early in the movie than you would be. A lot of people would expect, because usually people are watching this scene out of usually these people are watching this scene out of context, so they
I
don't
believe
know.
it's towards the end or anything. I'm mostly curious why specifically this. Sure, you can tell that it's the one that contains the most balance between the tension, the overacting, the reaction to it, and everything. But as Livson pointed out, there are other scenes in the movie, even ones we have already thanked
There
this
are
scene by
parodies.
now.
There are parodies that use other scenes of this movie.
No, I know. I'm just curious what managed to make it gravitate towards this. But
Well,
It's
again,
look at this there. That's
angry dictator.
This shot of him taking his glasses, it's just perfect when you
yeah,
hear something like
encapsulating.
that action is just so perfect too. It
There's
just has
also
to-
there's also the golden rule that a true real internet meme just spontaneously shows up, sometimes even without logic.
Oh, and here we go.
It's the dad wants to be left alone with.
I actually did make a Hitler parody myself back in 2011 when they announced Final Fantasy 14 too.
I made a few myself.
I think I still have it. Let me see if I still have it.
I've seen some based around Sonic 06, some based around Final
obviously.
Fantasy 13.
The most famous one being Xbox Live.
That being said,
Believe it
aside,
or not, there's actually a positive one where it's about Hitler really digging the looks of Mario Odyssey and wanting to play it.
Yes, Pedro.
Mm-hmm. That being said, parodies aside, I have to really compliment the actor who plays Hitler.
Yeah.
Because he completely like he's pretty much he's one of those actors where just like every time he's on screen your eyes are perfectly fixated on him. He completely steals every scene he's in.
Hey Eva, your husband's kind of having a moment.
I mean, they're not married yet, but yeah.
Well,
I mean, that is what Hitler was like in real life. You know, he commanded all the attention.
You know, how weird is it that How Honey, I'm Home is one of the rare instances that doesn't try to portray Hitler as a cartoonish villain, but that show has all kinds of other problems attached to it?
Well, that's the thing, though. Hitler was just a cartoon in that one.
pretty much.
Don't you see they
Correctly,
tried
I
to make
have-
him Fred Flintstone in that show? Why, Britain? Why?
Yeah, right here. My Hitler reacts to my Hitler hears about Final Fantasy 13 2 is still on YouTube. I actually, I was
Oh,
pretty
you were the
confident.
one who made that one. That's right.
I was pretty confident I didn't delete it. So yeah, it's right. It's still
For
there.
a while, they tried the whole copyright claim, but the director of the movie himself went actually out of his way and said, "Guys, chill out. You can do whatever you want."
Yeah.
It was just Constantine that were blocking them, whereas Hirschspiegel himself was
Yeah.
more than happy with him.
Well, here's the thing. My parody has the Constantine film tagged the video. But they didn't block it anywhere. They blocked monetization.
Originally,
but-
Pedro, it
but
was
that's all
even
they did.
worse. It's not even a case of blocking. They were outright striking you for it.
Thankfully, they don't nowadays, but yeah. I've been thinking about making one myself, but I'm not quite sure on what subject I want to make it on.
You can make one on
So
on
yeah,
what's going on with Ubisoft or Activision Blizzard. Like, there's plenty of material to go about.
there
so yeah,
is.
Hitler's pretty much lost all hope at this point, but he's still not leaving Berlin, and he's still forbidding surrender.
And we're not even halfway through the film. Imagine things getting even worse.
Yeah, one
Sure.
Nah, he'd never do that.
nah.
Oh, at least he's giving them a means to escape, I guess.
Well, just those two.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Can't consider it.
True love and all that jazz.
Makes you do crazy things. Okay.
So who gets to take the plane out of here?
Yeah, I first thought he was going to yell at her. So there's Goebbels, the Minister of Propaganda.
He looks like Willem Dafoe.
It's a bit more lanky.
He's got the cheekbones for it.
Okay. All right.
About that.
Don't worry, you're not gonna repeat it. It's gonna be even worse than that, actually.
Oh, that Fegelein. Always steering up chaos.
Well, I mean, Bugdor sussed him out there, actually.
Yeah. Again, Fegelein can preach and have a point, but he still is a spineless careerist coward. It's like,
yeah, because...
Let's be
Sorry, go
honest. At this point, it's mainly a competition of who sucks the least out of the Nazi party. They're Nazis.
Yeah, I mean, even Albert Speer, who tried to come off as the most sympathetic of them by expressing remorse for his actions. Speer, you did employ thousands of slave laborers.
Yeah.
That's not good, man.
Nope. Well, let's take the dog for a walk.
In a place that was just that got hit by those bombs even this far away.
She
It's interesting
really
this,
has
'cause,
to go.
Yes, Roger?
Because I actually think the overall depiction of the scenery, the war-torn scenery, and even the war scenes in particular, feels very reminiscent of the cinematography in Full Metal Jacket, actually.
Okay, that's what. Okay, I don't think Hirschspiegel is. I don't think he's even going for
the
Kubrick
director.
approach, because remember this is only his second film, so he's just trying a more once a loose camera process. It's very except for these outdoor scenes when you're in the bunker. It's very very enclosed. A lot of films portray the bunker as still being somewhat big enough to fit people in, like to fit a lot of people, including a camera. Whereas in this film, it's very compact. It's really hard to move about. I can imagine the cameraman having a bit of a hard time moving about filming this.
So where did they actually film the movie?
St. Petersburg.
Hmm.
Well, in Russia, because basically that was like one of the few places about that could accurately portray war-torn Berlin, because the buildings there are very rustic.
The irony.
And they're not even out for a minute before they have to go back into the bunker again.
The irony, portraying such a German film in Russia. Stalin probably had a good laugh at that from the afterlife. Nobody knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
So yeah, these are basically Goebbels' apparent troops.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but basically, Goebbels was just basically a clone of Hitler.
Don't you know, Dweebs, the clones of Hitler were actually from Gotham City's lab. God, that comic is still so stupid.
Yeah. Superman at Earth's End was pretty stupid.
Yeah, and yes, and now we see why a lot of the elderly were put in the hospital below. Because some of the German army decided to beat the shit out of them, claiming they're traitors. Yeah, the civilians, when you can't even rely on your own, even your own army is killing you. Well, there's the supplies.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where he got them, but and yeah, now we're going to get to see what the hospitals were like.
This is, yeah.
Oh boy, here we go too.
Oi.
Yeah, it's more about emergency, kind of like put there in conditions already torn apart for also the time being. So yeah, this is less more of an hospital and more like a cauldron for every kind of disease that you want.
So a coffin, essentially.
Unfortunately, they don't really have much of a choice, Drove. Okay, nobody know, but just for answer, they really didn't have much of a choice, mostly because some injuries needed to be treated immediately, like bullet wounds, obviously. Or also that, loss of arts.
Yeah. And yeah, these were the hospitals.
Mm-hmm.
the actual operating things, and yeah. But hey, Goebbels is bringing his wife and children to the bunker.
How lovely.
About that.
Oh, sure, that's
That'll help.
You know, ignorance does not win wars. It tends to actually lose them.
Mm-hmm.
Which you nudge them towards, but hey, who's looking for details now?
Yeah,
Really?
again.
I should go.
Yeah, yeah. In case you don't know your history, even before they were elected, the Nazis used a lot of very violent methods to get themselves into the Reichstag.
Awkward.
But yeah, as we're going to see a bit later on in the movie, in addition to being a careerist, opportunist, cowardly scumbag, he's also an adulterer.
Yeah.
Yep.
There's the rest of the Goebbels.
They're a very prolific family.
Why am I getting Sound of Music vibes from this?
This isn't this isn't springtime for Hitler.
Still, props for managing to coordinate effectively the child actors.
So yeah, we go from that to talking about.
I'm sure that's not foreshadowing.
Should we go from that to talking about how they'd like to commit suicide? So Hitler wants to shoot himself. Eva wants to poison herself.
It's interesting. Even Agatha Christie lampshaded that at least for a long time in decades, which is reflected in murder mystery novels, that women tends to prefer poison. It's never actually mostly tends to explain why. It's just a thing that happens. It's the
What a
father
gentleman.
counts.
Now we're getting basically two different letters, one from Eva and one from Magda Goebbels. Yeah, in an act of a way to so-called protect her children from there no longer being a world of National Socialism, she brought her children here to die.
You're all crazy.
So yeah, that girl from earlier, she's again, brainwashed by Hitler, and that she'd rather die by the hand of a fellow officer as opposed to being captured by the Russians. But obviously, this has affected him. Yeah. Okay, this bit I could never really this bit I'm always a bit confused as to who's that guy in the picture.
Okay.
Hmm.
I actually don't know. I was trying to think previous Germans, Prussian commanders, but I can't think one that matches the description. Let me see.
I mean, Hitler hated the Russians.
And Prussian Swedes. Prussia was the name where Germany went before.
And in another case of Hitler being paranoid and completely unaware of the situation, he's now sending Keitel out to try and help recover oil fields after this battle's done.
There you go. Friedrich II of Prussia, aka Frederick the Great, lived in the 18th century.
I can imagine this question being why the war's over at this point.
Yeah, actually, one of the reasons why I actually do compare this movie to Kubrick's work is because I actually really love the way what's the director's name again? Oops.
Oliver Hirschspiegel.
Oh yeah, I love how Oliver he's fully committed to not going into any kind of major dramatic tone, in the sense that he still allows the dramatic weight of the scenes to, you know, sink in, but never at any point does it he goes into sentimentality. Like again, the idea is just show what happens and just allow the audience to to take their own conclusions from everything. Because when you try, because you know, like it would be so tempting for a lot of filmmakers to just go into full sentimentality,
Yeah.
and fully showcase how horrible the
horror.
Nazis were.
Well, we still
but,
have glimpses of stuff like other horrors of war, you know, or what you just said. But there's also, but it's mostly prevalent what you stated about, you know, having the viewer taking that conclusion.
So now Goering, Hitler's second in command, is basically trying to take control of the country from this point under the belief that Hitler's been incapacitated or is dead, to try and fix the problem for Germany. But you know, Hitler being Hitler and a couple of his generals thinks it's a coup. Now, as for what happened to Goering, he did survive the end of this part of the war. He was taken by the Americans. Well, actually, he went to the Americans because Hitler targeted Goering and his family for execution.
Mm-hmm.
And so Goering surrendered to the Americans, and he eventually was found, stood trial, and was found guilty at the Nuremberg trials and was sentenced to death. But he committed suicide before they could do the sentence. And yeah, there's another famous scene from the movie from Gans.
Yeah.
Think about where they're staying.
Yeah. But Lady Goebbels has got a fever.
Oh boy. Have you?
Hmm.
Are you sure you don't want to rethink that just a little bit?
No, this is one of those crazy parents. Again, I mean, she was really one of the worst affected by Hitler's brainwashing, along with her husband. Because remember, her husband was the minister of propaganda.
Mm-hmm.
So now we're going to get another scene between Speer and Hitler, where again, well, actually, it's a bit after this, but basically they're going to have a bit where Speer basically is going to confess to Hitler that he'd been deliberately disobeying his orders of killing all Germany.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, he was, because I mean, yes, Speer's still a Nazi at the end of the day, but he wouldn't do something like that. Carry out Hitler's orders of basically destroying all of Germany just to spite everybody.
Again,
Last time the Russians did that to try and defeat Napoleon, which technically worked, but it really damaged them in the long run.
Mm-hmm. In general, Dweebs, they didn't. No one wanted to be committed on any kind of applied, behind the city that this kind of plan was applied. Again, the aforementioned that he wanted to use on Paris.
Uh-huh.
I mean, there was stuff where when the Allies were liberating the concentration camps, at least some of them decided to trap all the prisoners, who of course were mostly Jewish, in tunnels so they wouldn't be liberated. And the saddest thing about, okay, aside from all the obvious bad things about Nazism, of the neo-Nazis that exist around here right now, there was a case recently of a neo-Nazi who somehow got into the Metropolitan Police. Like, they barely did any checks on the guy. Like, what they normally do is, are you a member of any party or anything like that? But he managed to get into the police. Maybe he was found out eventually and was arrested and jailed. I can't remember if he's been jailed so far at this point. But to the point where he was allowed to get into the first place is pretty scary. Again, you kind of force them into it.
Why the confession now, I wonder? As I disobeyed you.
Semantics.
He says that with a stone cold hard face and just.
And yet, surprisingly, Hitler doesn't go shouting at him.
Huh.
He looks more disappointed than anything else.
One thing that the movie portrays also effectively is the growing sense of isolation given to being in the bunker that adds to everything.
Hey, Lips, I'm not mad, Hans. I'm just disappointed.
Yeah. Disappointed I didn't carry out your orders to kill all our people.
Combine.
Also, mein Führer, my name is not Hans. Yes, it is. I am the Führer. So now it's Hans. You see, it is much easier for me if I treat everybody with the name Hans. That way I don't forget anybody's name, see?
You know, knowing Hitler, I wouldn't be surprised if that was his mentality at some point.
I'm not crazy, Jova. I will kill anybody who says I am.
Yep.
So yeah, speaking of his core, you actually get a snippet here.
And yeah, that was Spear's last scene in the movie.
Guess he pretty much hightailed it out of there.
It's also the movie also wants to represent that about with a kind of dissolving of the scene.
Spear too would be captured and found guilty in the Nuremberg trials, but because of his expressions, at least of repentance for his crimes, he only got 20 years in prison. He got out. He did basically a world tour talking about his life and Hitler's and everything until he died in 1981.
Yeah, his friends ended up way worse.
But yeah, another thing is that Hitler's, for being only 57, he's moving about like he's a lot older than that.
You also noticed the kind of erratic gesture of his left arm.
So yeah, because Goering's been ousted, now von Grimm is the commander of the Air Force. The
More
Luftwaffe.
promotions.
He talks about it so passively.
Uh-huh.
But now about Himmler's activities that we saw in the beginning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I took it well.
Yeah, like Jova said, in this kind of party political system, everyone's just trying to one up the other, and that just causes chaos.
Yep. Has he gone crazy? Has he gone crazy? My Führer, have you looked in a mirror?
Yeah, Hitler, you're fighting a losing battle. But the last thing you want to be doing is just basically focusing a lot of bits and pieces of your already depleted army onto your generals.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's all one giant prank on you for sure. Delusions, thy name is Adolf Hitler.
Yeah, that's one thing I've noticed. Americans pronounce it Adolf, but at least also in the Europe pronounce them as Adolf.
Yeah, that's the correct pronunciation. The most European
Austrian
countries,
dialect of German.
including Germany and Austria, pronounced a hard quote-unquote A letter.
And here it is another. Okay, that theme before was also one of the famous ones. Now we get two back to back.
Yeah.
Where we get more of the people working in the SS wanting to leave the bunker, but this is a special case. This is Groritz, by the way.
Ha! Oh, God. Nobody with clairvoyance tell him. Actually, you know what? Do tell him. He's more than earned it at this point.
Is that bit specifically? Still can't find the guy.
A little fugitive. Oh, that Fegelein, what a rapscallion.
Gone off the grid, is he? Well, burn it all down to get to him!
I love how you can have it in two different contexts. In the parodies, it's just basically Hitler going, "Gah, Fegelein foiled me again." Whereas in this one, again, he really portrays how far his mind has fallen at this state.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And it's actually quite scary. Again, you're Hitler, yeah, he's scary. But the performance specifically.
Mm-hmm.
So, since Goritz isn't allowed to leave Berlin, I think you guys can see where this is going.
Mm-hmm.
Emphasized with the dropping of a doll.
Always effective to showcase the drama, Jova.
Yeah. Well, this doesn't seem as dignified.
Yeah, Fegelein's basically sleeping in a brothel house. If that's the accurate word for it.
Mm-hmm. What a gentleman.
Uh-huh.
Again, he's engaged.
I'm Marina's mom. I guess he's just so done at this point.
Yeah, I think pretty much the only time in this movie that Eva is actually against Hitler doing something.
So, you gonna tell her where they found him? That'll just really rub salt into the wound.
Yeah, so the longer it goes on, the more screwed they are.
Basically.
Cannon fodder.
At this point, what way left?
Huh, imagine that. Yeah.
Again, how many people are in those units?
Enough from Hitler's imagination. More than enough. In fact, an entire regiment the size of Russia, probably. Okay, you know what? Just somebody getting a clairvoyant to shut this man up.
Considering I was obsessed with your cult, he will probably believe them.
Yeah. Might as well be the equivalent of, you're screwed, son.
Yeah, even they know it, but well, except Goebbels. Well, I mean, you already asked that yourselves, but again, they got kicked. People got kicked out the last time they did it.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, a lot of generals. Like I even said earlier, they don't want to repeat 1918 again. And yeah, an undignified man, yes, even by Nazi standards, is about to get an undignified exit.
And he went out saying how Hitler.
Yeah, that's it. He's done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, how many of these people are even soldiers in the bunker at this point? They're going to be outnumbered by their family members. And yet they still have time to make a fancy dinner.
The wonders of delusion.
Yeah. So yeah, Hitler's pretty much preparing for the end at this point. I don't remember it being like that. First World War being forced upon Germany.
Okay, First World War was a bit more complicated than that. Germany originally wasn't that much part. The real reason why it kickstarted was because of a chain of deals that different countries had with each other, and Germany just so happened to have been allied with the Austrian Empire back then. It was more of a convenience thing rather than Germany having a different kind of morality.
It was
called like in this case.
It was essentially a case where Austria were the ones who kicked it off, but eventually when Austria were just handling it very incompetently, even after technically achieving what they had wanted to in the first place, Germany went, okay, y'all are idiots, I'm gonna step in and assume command. Which is why Germany were sort of put in the spotlight for World War One.
Because also that kind of militarization power that I did mention before.
And of course, Hitler blames everything on the Jews.
Of course.
And now Hitler wants Goebbels to leave. I wonder if Hitler knew at this point what the Goebbels were planning to do with their children.
And what, you think even he was a bit disturbed by that?
I don't know. I mean, the film doesn't show whether he knew or not. So now Goebbels wants to dictate his testament, but she's doing Hitler's first.
At what point does this all begin to set in for you, miss?
She's in denial, Jova.
Who isn't at this point?
So yeah, now it's time for the wedding. And okay, Guy. It says the race laws require him to ask him these questions, and but Yeah, as Goebbels is going to say. Yeah.
What a momentous occasion. Meanwhile, back in reality...
Are you sure those are not the fireworks, Jova?
Yes, the fireworks of victory. They're just looking a little gray. Just listen to that scream of adulation.
The invading forces are getting closer and closer.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, it's been a while since it's been a while. I mean, I haven't even talked much about the production other than who made the movie. I'll look into it now.
Well, one thing you can tell us in the meantime as well was in terms of monetary value, like how much did it cost to make the movie and how much did it recoup?
Let's take a look. It cost €13.5 million. That's $15 million, and it made $92.2 million.
So yeah, definitely a success.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh yeah. One of the actors in this movie, the guy who played Roshus Mish, passed away 3 years before the actual guy did.
Huh.
And in case the guy playing Guncher Gotts Otto looks familiar to you, he played the henchman in Tomorrow Never Dies.
What an honor.
Yeah, the Bond movie, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Also, Bugdorf's actor, Justus von Donai, I don't know how you pronounce it. He's actually the grandson of a German resistance member named Hans. And as for the actor playing Himmler, this is actually the second time that Ulrich Nofen played him. Doesn't say what the first time was. Oh, and also, Oliver Hirschbiegel actually had a lucky escape in terms of film directing. He almost didn't direct this one because he tried to jump ship to another film that lost its original director, but his contract stated he couldn't leave this film. But guess what film he tried to jump to?
I don't know.
Blade Trinity.
Huh?
Ha! Wait, hold on. Oh, and this came out the same year as Blade Trinity, too.
Yeah, 2004.
Whoa, imagine going from this film to Blade Trinity.
That's the thing, though. Blade Trinity was supposed to do that instead of this.
Although, you know what's sad, Dwibs? Even if he did escape that fate, he eventually ended up falling to it anyway with, Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer, which is
No, that was Bernd Eichinger. I'm talking about Oliver Hirschbiegel, the director. Although that's not to say that Hirschbiegel didn't have his own downfall. Well, not a huge extent, but the film we made after this was The Invasion, which is a remake of Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
The one with Nicole Kidman, I actually saw
Daniel
it.
Craig.
Was it
Yeah,
Yeah,
bad?
except okay, here's the thing. Except as it turned out in the end, it mostly wasn't Her Spiegel's.
it was the
work into the movie.
Wachowskis.
Yeah, basically,
Wait, what?
Warner Brothers saw a test screening of the movie, but they weren't impressed with how it turned out. So basically, they fired Her Spiegel, replaced him directing-wise with James McTeague, and had the Wachowskis write new scenes.
Oh,
And I
don't
can
tell me.
assure you,
Right.
Joe, that their pretentiousness does show up.
Don't tell me his name was still put on top of it, as if it was
Yes,
his
it was.
movie was. Oh, wow.
Stay
So
classy, Hollywood.
So it's kind of like a Cool World situation. Well, okay, it's not entirely a Cool World situation because, the guy was still technically the director. It's just that his entire script got changed into an absolute turd.
Yeah, could you imagine how you must have felt? I mean, how anyone must have felt having your work and your script pretty much basically be torn up by post Matrix 3 Wachowskis.
Yeah, and that's the thing. They already had a pretty bad reputation by the end
V
of
for
the
Vendetta
Matrix.
notwithstanding.
Yeah. V for Vendetta notwithstanding, the Wachowskis were a laughingstock. And again, they had made such a record of being a laughingstock. They immediately went from being some of the most hot things since sliced bread in Hollywood to, well, utter clowns with how they managed to tarnish the reputation of Matrix, all in just 3 years. Back to back with each other.
In a case of where we can mostly blame Her Spiegel on a film's bad quality, have you guys ever heard of a film called Diana?
Only by name.
Yeah, I know.
only by
It's the
name.
movie. It's the movie. It's the biopic of Princess Diana with Kristen Stewart.
Oh,
Actually,
yeah.
no,
Isn't it?
no.
Oh, isn't it?
It's another one where Diana was played by Naomi Watts.
Oh,
Oh,
I have
okay.
heard of that one, but I never saw it.
Basically, it was written by the guy who wrote a film called The Libertine, and the film has such overwhelmingly negative reviews. It has an 8% on Rotten Tomatoes, and a lot of people credit the film's bad performance to the script and Her Spiegel's direction.
Jeez.
And in fact, it was. In fact, the film was apparently so bad, i.e., most of the criticism mainly fell towards how badly depicted parts of Diana's life were,
Obviously.
and how the film doesn't even show how Diana died. Like one minute she's alive in a hotel in Paris, the next she's dead.
What?
Like there's no in
Why?
between. I don't know, and even worse, Watts got a Razzie for this. Watts got a double Razzie nomination for that year for both this and movie 43, but because the Razzies are just as guilty of overusing running gags as they claim most of their nominated films do, she lost to Tyler Perry for Medea.
Speaking instead of these movie dweebs, did they actually manage to get or at least nominated for awards?
I'll check.
Deep.
The Medea movies are sometimes an acquired taste, but I don't know. From what you're describing, it sounds like that Diana film was way worse than any Medea film I've seen.
And put it this way, Dweejova, again, not being a Brit and everything, but I know the deepest respect that the people of the UK had for Diana, and anything that portrays that even slightly out of line, yeah.
It got nominated for Best Foreign Language Movie, but lost to The Sea Inside.
I don't know that.
Oh, Diana's a foreign language movie?
No, I
this
asked a
one.
question about this, Jova.
She is so chipper about this all.
You can tell that they're barely holding together when there's...
So another part of the most efficient ways to commit suicide thing. Basically, he's advising bite the capsule and immediately pull the trigger. That's to make doubly sure that you'll be dead at the end. And he has a lab rat in a way. Yeah, he's going to use his dog. Yeah.
The wonderful vegetarian, everyone.
Oh, so you look away from that?
Double standards with.
Again, yeah. I got again. Props to Bruno Ganz. Yes, he's a more down to earth portrayal of Hitler compared to the cartoon characters we gotten before this.
I guess I
That's
would
not,
have.
that's not to say they all were, but
Yeah, like, to be fair, Hitler's portrayal in Indiana Jones 3 was relatively down to earth.
It's literally like 2, 3, 10 seconds, and he doesn't even say anything.
T.O., you'd be surprised how cartoonist Hitler can be even when he only has 10 seconds of screen time.
I forgot, how many screen time did he had in Inglourious Basterds, even though that's the entire fucking objective?
I don't recall.
got a few scenes, I think.
Everyone memed the not repeated 9-9 scene. So
Yeah, as I was saying, with this kind of performance, less is indeed more. Yeah, he's more human, but you still see him as as the reprehensible monster that he was. He basically he pisses you off every time you see him.
That's also the entire point of the movie, the idea of constructing a quasi the more realistic possible depiction of the events. It's the entire point, and the appeal is that until this point, not many people, if no one at all, actually did this kind of thing before in the movies. So the movie actually has the advantage on its side.
Also, the whole thing where he was ranting earlier about how he conquered Europe all by himself and how he basically trashed his generals, was that in the early days of the war, Hitler kept overruling his advisors and got great success from it, while every time he left high command to their own devices, he got stuff like the Kursk. Not the submarine, but you know what I mean. With the Battle of France, for example, I'm getting this on TV tropes. Oberkommando suggested that if you do a slow campaign to take over France, optimistically, it would take you 2 years to conquer it and cause 1 million casualties. Whereas with Manstein's plan that Hitler ultimately went through, he broke through at Sedan. That meant France was conquered in just 6 weeks with over 160,000 casualties. And it was this quick success that coloured Hitler's decision-making for the rest of the
They
war.
even have a code name.
Here.
They have a literal code name for it, Blitzkrieg.
Yeah.
Well, gotta look good for the big day.
Bruno Ganz was even given the role, or he offered the role at least, of playing Oscar Schindler in Schindler's List. But he refused the role.
Oh.
So it went to Liam Neeson.
Well, the pasta's good. Really?
So yeah, coming up is again something else that even I was a bit surprised as to what point of the movie it happened. Hitler's death,
Yeah.
and yet we're not even like we're like 40 minutes away from the end.
Yeah. It's like, you feel like this would happen near the very end. Well,
keep in mind-
nearly 50 minutes away.
I like to take it as like the movie is not called Hitler's Downfall; it's just called Downfall.
Yeah,
So you can make an argument this is the downfall of the Nazi regime in general, not just Hitler.
Oh, seeing some parallels.
That's usually what a married couple says, honey. So chipper about this all. What have you been taking? No, not what you're going to take, but seriously. Yeah, screw this. Yeah, Uncle Hitler and Aunt Ava are going on a trip, you see.
Sure.
They're not going to see you. But yeah, Magda is still desperate.
For what? Like, what does she think's gonna happen at this moment?
Also, the bits where Hitler was ranting, apparently even native German speakers had trouble keeping up with his rants. But again, yeah, that is actually how he talked.
There are actually moments of improvisation, actually, that they kept in. I can imagine at least a couple.
And yeah, even he was completely stoic at this point.
Oh, wow. Poignant.
Yeah. Yeah, So yeah, I mean, typical of the Nazis. Anyone they consider, traitors, regardless of whatever they might have actually done, they just kill them and brush them off to the side. Whereas with their great leader,
So now what?
Oh, well, burn the body. Hitler
yeah, but
explicit.
yeah, he gave them the order.
They're just sleeping.
Worst Danny ever.
Yeah. So yeah, Hitler ordered that they burn the bodies. Why? Well, because something similar had happened to Mussolini, and let's just say the people did not take too kindly to him after his death.
Literally hanged upside down despite the fact that he was already dead.
Yeah. Hitler went...
I will save that for another time, but I just say that there's a lot. Oh, there's a lot tied to my country before and after the war.
Basically, Hitler did not want any such desecration to his body to come, so he ordered it burnt.
But Jova, that precludes the possibility of so many sci-fi stories that tell that his body was cryogenically preserved.
I know, right?
Or that he fled to Argentina.
That's a good question. How did the scientists in Gotham got DNA of Hitler for the clones?
Well, to be fair, his body was still intact enough for the autopsy to be done and figure out that he shot himself, so probably from that. Or if they really want to be cheeky, from strands of his mustache.
Yeah, the way they do it is pretty crude. Petrol
Yeah.
fire, pretty much.
It's
Well,
all
they don't
got.
really have. Yeah, it's sort of literally all they got.
Okay. So now what do we do?
Well, for the time being,
We focus on Tommy Lee Jones. Oh, wait.
at least in the bunker, Goebbels is going to be the guy they go to.
There's the gun. There's the blood. The purse with the cyanide. Yeah.
Jesus.
And yeah, of course, they're going to hang their own civilians. I was on the side of the Red Beasts. I supported the Bolsheviks.
I don't think Lenin would have liked that.
So yeah, off to a negotiation. And also where Krebs's actor, Rolf Kanies, shows off his Russian skills.
Cool. So,
He was also he's the other actor who ended up in in Hitman Agent 47. For some reason.
Of course, the first thing he does now that Hitler is dead is try to sue for peace.
yeah.
There's even a parody of this scene where basically Hitler quits ranting, so Goebbels comes in to replace him, but he basically does a rip-off of Hitler ranting about Xbox Live, and they're like, oh god, this is hopeless.
Oh my god, I think I've actually seen that one. The one where Hitler is so mad at the concept of Xbox One, and mind you, the original
It's one of the
Xbox
more
One,
famous.
that he pretty much just outright quits. Another gunshot, business as usual.
So basically, he's making a sleeping drug for the Goebbels' kids.
Uh-huh. Oh, Hansel and Gretel. How apt. Hey, and just like Hansel and Gretel, the parents are totally not leading the kids into danger or death.
Yeah.
So what do they plan to do? Put them to sleep so that they won't hear as they gun them down?
Well, I'm not gonna gun them down.
Poison.
Yeah.
Having them asleep will make it so that they can just pour the poison in easily.
Yeah, even the kids aren't buying that crap. You know, the whole, oh yeah, they'll protect you from being sick in the damp bunker, but it's not damp. Yeah, basically, this Helga, she doesn't want it. All the meanwhile, their dad just stood outside the door.
Can't even look them in the face knowing what they're doing.
So there's Goebbels' testament.
Interesting choice of words.
Again, considering what you're doing to your own kids. So yeah, here we are. So yeah, the plan is to just basically poison all of them while they're knocked out. again, it's like what we said earlier. There's not much music in this, but what there is pretty effective.
And it's done to also emphasize a point. This is one case where, prime case of minimalism done for a purpose.
Yeah, I'm not against minimalism or anything.
It's just that a lot of times it's just used too randomly.
Yeah.
They really do show her doing that to every one of her kids. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that is what happened.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that's just right out there when it happened. Kind of look his own kids in the face.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
And how does she take out her upsetness?
Cards.
Yeah.
That's one vice. Yeah, I see we kind of went back on that whole I'm staying plan.
Yeah, and again, there's still a bit of movie left. We've got about just under half an hour. Yeah, I got to side with her. I mean, if you don't go, the Russians will get you.
Again, for all their talk about staying, they eventually crumpled and just decided to leave.
Well, they said they stay with Hitler, and Hitler's pretty much a bird cinder at this point. So yeah, but Bugdorf and Krebs are not going.
One last stand.
No.
Oh, suicide.
Yeah, I mean, like a lot of war criminals, they aren't going to face justice, are they? And even the ones that did probably were either one of those rare ones that repented or could even commit suicide properly.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have the chance to, anyway.
And for all of it, that one guy stays.
I mean, he's the guy manning the phones.
Yeah.
This was the guy who died before his real life, before the guy in real life died.
Mm.
He died in 20... Well, the actor died in 2010.
The one who manned the phones?
Yeah. The actor died in 2010.
Pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
Did he seriously just have a heart attack right there and then?
Yeah, I don't think he died after the spit in real life. Let me check. Weidling.
I don't remember either.
Helmut Weidling. He actually died 10 years after the war ended. Looking at Wikipedia. Basically, what happened was he was taken into custody, and the Supreme Court of the Soviet Union sentenced him to 25 years imprisonment in 1952, but he died 3 years later.
I'm guessing as far as the movie goes, he just had a heart attack. Though, yeah, weird that they had him die from that right there and then.
Yeah, it didn't. Look again. You have to take artistic liberty with stuff like this.
Mm-hmm.
Still a bit odd though. So and now the Goebbels are going to commit suicide. The dice is cast. Yeah, I think that's another fluff from the subtitles there.
Yeah, and here they just said the game's over.
I mean, if they said the die is cast, then yeah, it would have been fair enough. But dice is cast. Yeah, I mean, I don't have too many complaints with how the film's subtitled. It's just that one typo.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can look your wife in the face as you shoot her, but not your kids.
Double standards a bunch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, double standards. That's a Nazis all over. Now they even die, or at least get burnt like Hitler.
Not exactly sanitary.
No.
Yeah. We do get a little picture montage of what happens to the actual people.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's in the style of the Where Are They Now type of epilogue.
Yeah. Again, I know you want to protect yourselves, but for the civilian staff of the bunker, I don't think dressing up like soldiers.
Would have helped. Well, again, that's the only thing they had left.
Yeah, the allies and the Soviets are gonna think you're soldiers and shoot you on sight.
Imagine applying for a secretary job, being the lucky girl who gets it, and boy,
This is where you are now.
Yeah. I wonder, the woman at the start of this movie, was she the secretary?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
She passed away in 2002. Although again, this one was partly based off her book, among others,
Huh.
as well as eyewitness accounts of what happened in the bunker at the time. And you're still giving out medals.
What
Gotta
an
keep the
honor.
spirits high.
From secretary to soldier.
Everyone gets a promotion, Drova.
Or doesn't have a gun.
Oh boy, a soldier without a means to defend herself. Mm-mm. Guess somebody had to live.
He was the guy who was at that. He was also partly trying to convince Hitler to leave Berlin.
Mm-hmm.
He was also trying to defend Goering from execution, trying to explain his rationale.
So now it's essentially a mad dash to try and escape.
But as mentioned before, to where at this point?
Yeah, either end up with the Allies, where you'll get detained, but it's a lot better than being held by the Soviets.
Mm-hmm.
Huh, an act of decency. Almost forgot that existed with this. Oh boy.
What happened to Younger was she managed to reach a place called the Elbe, which is basically one of the biggest rivers in Central Europe, or the Elbe historically in English. She couldn't get to the Western Allied line, so she went back to Berlin after only a month after leaving.
And?
Well, she spent time there under an alias, but she got arrested by the Soviet military and was interrogated by them.
The KGB was never pretty with whoever they hunted.
Hearing tales from the Soviet guards about what the German military had done to the families in Russia, and That it was then she realised that what she thought she knew about the war in the East was pretty much Nazi propaganda.
Mm-hmm.
Had been held in various jails. She got released from prison in December 1945, but was stuck in the Soviet part of Berlin.
Oh boy.
Although she did manage to get to the British part of it, and later on the American part, where the Americans held her for a bit and asked her about her time in the bunker, but was then freed and lived in the West Germany part after the war.
Mm-hmm.
She went on to give interviews for TV programs and of course wrote that book before she died at the age of 81 in 2002.
I'm guessing this movie is based majorly off the said book.
Yeah. You already are.
Yeah, that kid's parents are dead.
Yeah.
It's more of a case that both understands that they need to stick like this to survive.
Although again, from what I remember, this kid was basically an invention for the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Well, into the Soviet territory you go now.
Hmm. Well, he offered her a drink.
Gotta love it, but when it comes to party, the Russians never stopped ever since like that.
Mm-hmm.
Love how there's some even just calling him Hitler.
Mm-hmm.
And it's official, they surrendered.
Yeah.
Yeah, of all those who said they killed themselves for their leader, only 2 of them did. And yet, as far as destroyed parts of a city go, this part doesn't look all mean, compared to everything else, this part looks more peaceful than everywhere else.
You can tell that they're trying to make it look more like a peripheral part of Berlin. You can see the fact that it's a bridge destroyed as well. You know, the fact that there's not much asphalt on the ground.
I get the feeling it's supposed to be thematic in a sense that now that the war for Berlin is over, now things are calmer and more colorful.
That too.
And we end the film with a little bike ride.
So, just word of advice, don't go looking for a job from Stalin. You might be in for a similar, if not worse, experience.
So, what happened to everyone else? Yeah. Germany officially surrendered on May 7th, 1945. It was agreed that all hostilities end at midnight, May 8th. By then, the war had cost over 50 million lives. 6 million Jews have been murdered in German concentration camps. So yeah, Christian did survive, but she died in 1997 in Dusseldorf. Just something that's up for those who might have German copies of the film. And yeah, Schenk was released in 1953, but he died in 1998. Monka was released in 1955, but he died in 2001. Feigling, as I said earlier, he died in the capacity of the Soviets. Captivity, sorry. That doctor earlier died the year the war ended. He got arrested in the bunker. Otto Gutscher was released from prison in 1956, but he died in 2003, 1 year before the film came out. That girl earlier with von Grimm died in 1979 after setting a lot of flying records. Von Grimm himself died a few weeks after the war ended after committing suicide. Lynch and Henschel died respectively in 1980 and 1982. The chef vanished without trace.
What a mystery.
Like I said, Albert Speer died in 1981 after being released in 1966 following the Nuremberg trial. Keitel and Yodel, again, as said, trial, were sentenced to death and had their sentences carried out. Goering was also sentenced to death, but he committed suicide in prison before they could hang him. Himmler tried to go under a false identity, but he got exposed, captured, and then he committed suicide. Bormann and Stumpfegger died on the same day, on May 2nd, by suicide again. Roger Smith, at the time of this release, he lived in Berlin, but he actually died in 2013. And like I said, Younger worked as a secretary for various companies and lived in her home town of Munich until she died in 2002. And as the film begun with a interview with the actual Traudl Younger, the film ends with it. Basically expressing regret that she feels that even though she was so young, she felt that wasn't an excuse for not going out and trying to find out more about what was really happening.
And yeah,
And
that's
the
pretty
movie.
much it.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. The film was mostly based off Younger's recollections. So yeah, that was the Untergang. I'll give final thoughts first to Pedro, since he's seen the film the most recently, other than me.
No, this is pretty much fantastic. Like, it does a great job in showcasing everything that was happening on this particular side, because we always like to take a look at these people as the bad guys, but the movie does a great job in showcasing what happened to them, and without trying to go into sentimentality aspect, like, oh, you see, they were all, despite them being bad people, they still had feelings. No, like, it just shows you what happens. It showcases their side of the argument, and basically just allows you to just absorb and just see for yourself what happened, and you just take your own conclusions. Like, pretty much, the acting is spot on. The writing is pretty down to earth and very realistic, which is appropriate for this kind of film. The direction is the technical aspects in general are pretty fantastic. So definitely. So yeah. I really hope those. I really hope those it's a great thing that the parodies kept the memory of this movie alive, because most people check out the movie because of which is nice, because it is an awesome movie, so why not, right? So awesome, 5 stars.
I'll go next. Don't worry, my thoughts are pretty short, like Pedro's. There's a reason this is actually my favorite film, because it takes it does the brave thing of being a German-made movie and taking a subject that I'm sure is very sensitive to the whole nation, as quite possibly the most, it's definitely the most evil leader they had, with all the horrible things he and his regime did, and try and tackle it with some level of nuance. Portraying Hitler and all those who agreed with him as the evil scumbags they were, but also not making them cartoon characters so that you wouldn't be able to take it seriously, which is funny, but it could also be pretty damaging to actual historical events, because I mean, it's like with, I said earlier, it's one thing making Hitler a subject of ridicule, like stuff like Springtime for Hitler, but it's another thing trying to do that with the whole regime.
Like, that was so never done before that apparently that was a point of contention when the movie first came out, mainly among the German critics.
Yeah. Well, Springtime for Hitler wasn't the actual movie, but it was one of the producers.
Mm-hmm.
But I dare say Hirschspiegel and Eichinger, the director and writer respectively, and producer as well, pulled it off pretty well in my opinion, which kind of leads me to wonder if Eichinger had such a good taste for scripts that, considering he wrote this one himself, what was it like with the Fantastic Four movies? One
really must wonder what happened.
The head honcho Fox, remember that he seemed to have been antagonizing a lot the superhero Fox movies.
Yeah, but he also was an exclusive holder of the rights as to how they made while he was making that unreleased one.
Mm-hmm. True, that was Roger Corman instead. I don't know then.
Yes, odd. And the performances are outstanding, especially from Bruno Ganz, who again, takes what a lot of people could easily fall into as being a cartoon caricature, and makes him into it makes him into someone that's actually a person, albeit a really evil person. Yeah, because even in his soft-spoken moments, that guy just makes you shiver every time he speaks. And I put a lot of that down to Bruno Ganz's performance in the movie. And the rest of the actors are all pretty good too. It's also pretty well directed, considering this is Hirschspiegel's. It's only his second movie. I haven't seen his first one, but again, I'm really impressed with how how cramped he makes the bunker feel. I mean, I'm pretty sure it was. It wasn't this grand, big, wide open space by comparison that a lot of other films that portrayed the last days of Hitler were like. And the score, again, are pretty minimalist to get the job done. Although I do think it is the weakest part of the movie on a technical level. And so, I really, this film is awesome, but I'm also it's kind of a shame to see what happened to Hirschbiegel directing wise. After this, like his unfortunate time with Warner Brothers with the invasion, and I mean there were other films in between as well. I haven't seen those, but there was also Tom Tykwer. That's a Wachowski regular there. But yeah, with Diana, yeah, he's got no excuse there. But aside from that, he's got a very decent filmography. He even directed episodes of the German version of Criminal, that recent Netflix series about interrogating criminals. So it's not like his career's on life support or anything. He's still got stuff to do. He even got an actor from Downfall in that. I'm guessing they're like working mates at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
That's understandable.
Yeah, overall, awesome movie considering the circumstances.
Yeah, it's a really great movie. Like, very good in portraying what it was like at the time from all different angles here and there. And it really does show that, well, yeah, a villain is not always a monster with claws and everything, but sometimes is just one of the most deplorable people in history. And oh boy, everybody gets a chance to be scum in this. Like, jeez. That being said, it certainly nails the point home and very effectively done. And, it's nice that this movie didn't fall into obscurity or anything. Like, I don't even mind that it's kept alive by memes or whatnot. Like, the more people know about this movie, the better. Good stuff. Next.
Alright, I guess that leaves me then. Yeah, it's pretty much what both Pedro and Dweeb said. The strength of the movie is the fact that not many people tackled the subject in the way this movie did. It's a case where the movie takes itself 100% completely and utterly seriously, but it doesn't result too heavy as as a side effect, like a lot of people do it. For a comparison, even if obviously not the same magnitude, Josh Trank recently tried to make something similar to this based on the last period where Al Capone was live. Unfortunately, it did not turn out with the same effect, despite the movie taking itself still seriously, mind you. It's a matter of also understanding the subject, and it seems that all the crew and the actors in this one instead actually managed to pull it off effectively. It's a mature movie for a mature audience, and yes, there's something paradoxical of what I just said, compared to the fact that most people know this about some of the most, potentially juvenile and yet hilarious kind of memes that you can find by exploiting the scenes out of this. But much like the director himself endorsed this kind of thing, it's something that's perfectly acceptable because they don't really tarnish the movie as a result. They just want to be, their own thing by using this as a vehicle. But for the movie itself, it's also a testament of how good filmmaking is also outside of Hollywood. A panorama that unfortunately during the decade it kind of got diluted a bit. It was mostly more prominent in the decades between the 50s and the 80s, roughly. But still, it's pretty. I don't really have any major complaints. I actually also like the minimalism applied with the soundtrack, or more like the lack thereof in most of the movie, for very good reasons. The movie wants to make a point of keeping the scenes quiet when they have to do it, or the other end with dialogue, and only the music where it's just necessary. Something like The Pianist, for comparison, instead will use a lot of music, but it's mostly for thematic purposes because the protagonist of that it's literally a pianist. So it kind of makes sense that music would be an important part of the movie. But in this, it tries to be a quasi-documentary of that. So it's important. It's both important, like we've said, but also it's part of it. The idea of of wanting to be like this stylistic. And like I said, the advantage is that not many people, if no one else, actually had done it the way before. Most portrayals of Hitler mostly being, in more comedic or at least propaganda-like situations, like we mentioned before. I forgot actually what year Inglourious Bastard was released, but that one definitely fits the
2009.
bill. There you go, where Hitler is basically this justice tantruming child that's there to give you a laugh before he actually gets killed. But no, it's a movie that has a respect for what it wants to tell, and yet it tells about one of the more delicate and vile periods of history, or recent history at the very least, and it's only commendable for that. So don't let, also audience, don't let the fact that we haven't said too much during the movie discourage you. It's only mostly a testament of how good the movie is, and how it also demands being respect on its own. But yeah, that's pretty much it for me. But when it comes to, well, it's not a thing that we're gonna do immediately, but when it came to World War II, we've only seen one bit of it. Mussolini at this point was already dead, and Italy already surrendered. Anyway, my country was pretty much done for a long time. But there was a player that wasn't mentioned here, still kicking. Japan and America had to deal with that just in their own way. But we'll see eventually how that turns out. So in the meantime, see you for whatever we do next.
See ya.
See ya.
Yep.